before, and we're going to continue to spread this knowledge and this information because we survived, American history. We dodged a bullet, but I think it's time, and you guys are ready to know the truth and what's really been going on because they've been using some things behind the scenes that's been historical artifacts, and but for some strange reason we could not have these conversations because you know it would be too argumentative, too much debate, and then a lot of the women really did not know that the joke was on them. A lot of the women did not know that the joke was on them because it hurts my heart to black, highly successful black women work their way all the way up to the top of the totem pole, get their education, do everything right, and then find themselves in a compromising position and to be forced to do things that a white man wouldn't even do himself because they're sacrificing our women's careers, they're sacrificing the female, and they're literally are pimping elitist sisters, our educated sisters, just like President Harris, presidential candidate Harris. She did all of this work to get to the position that she's in. And then all of a sudden, you know, at the snap of a finger, she's put on the wrong side of history. Now she's being mocked. Her career is suspect. She's been exposed for any and everything that she's done in her lifetime. Now she's looking bad. And now she's pretty much washed out the system because how can we move forward in history experiencing what we just experienced without a reaction? Because every action gets a reaction. And now that the people, we are in a position to stand up for what's right, to fight for what's right, to tell the truth and shame the devil. Now we're just really going to break it down so they can't do this again. And I'm doing this strictly out of love and understanding and compassion because what we do, we do things, that resonate with our spirit. Good morning to you. Good morning to you. We do things that resonate with our spirit. So today we're going to be speaking on the focus of the woman. And it's pretty much the playbook out of the science of Willie Lynch. And I've been paying attention to politics for a while, and I've seen Joe Biden many times say, follow the science. And that science is the science of Willie Lynch. And anytime that I've tried to expose or anytime that I've tried to have a conversation about, the science of Willie Lynch, there's always some soror, some sorority sister, or someone trying to debunk the fact because her job is to protect, her best interest, which is, the people, her handlers. Okay, let's say this, her handlers. And welcome to, if you're new to the page, somebody jumped in the chat already, welcome, hit that notification, hit that like, hit that subscription, because going into 2025, we're going to be going up. We're going to be going up. And it's what it is. So we have to focus and let you know what their playbook is. Because it's been, far too long. We've been sitting on the sidelines as men in the black community. We're not African American, okay? Because in African American, you can't be two continents. Okay, that's an ethnicity. We are race. We are Black Americans. So we have to step up and the baton that was fumbled and dropped by the baby boomers, and save the country. And more importantly, protect our women, because it's now that the election is over, I kind of have a little sadness for my sister who fought so hard to get into positions of power and then to find themselves, in the positions that they are. The Fani Willises. You saw what went down with Fani Willis. Fani Willis is the DA in the county in the state of Georgia, and her office just lost the most expensive and the longest court case in Georgia state history. Okay. And it's sad because her predecessors, or the individuals that were in those positions before her, would have never tried these cases. So they are forcing our elitists, our boule sisters, to pretty much, they're pimping them. They're putting them out there and forcing them to do things that they wouldn't even do themselves, to commit career suicide. Letitia James. Donald Trump's been operating in the state of New York, for the last 40, 50 years. And if you look at his family's legacy for even longer, but no situation has ever transpired or come into play until they put Fonnie Willis, as the district attorney, the attorney general of the state, and Alvin Bragg. And then once they put the brothers and the sisters in there, this is when they have to do things that are not common and do things that would actually hurt their careers. And that's sad. It is not cool. Because when I look at Letitia James, how she's, she took on the mindset, she's going to destroy Trump and all this. Now, Trump is the president. Any case that she had against him has been shelved. There were some election interference cases down in Georgia with Trump. Those cases have been dismantled indefinitely. And then you have Fonnie Willis trying to prosecute rappers on RICO cases, and it's just lost the most expensive, the longest court case in the history. So I thought about it and I said, this was probably the best time to have a conversation with the people, because democracy is dead. Okay. And the road will be January 20th of 2024. And democracy will no longer be in existence, because that democracy was predicated on baby boomers. Okay. And some baby boomers, this was the last one to vote in the presidential election. And that's fact, because I'm sure without a shadow of a doubt, to natural causes or whatever, there's baby boomers have pretty much voted for the Democratic Party and they expired, and they were in some type of purgatory, because God, like I said, he is what he is, and we got to be right and understand. We cannot allow another generation to be sacrificed, just like the baby boomers really didn't understand. Because if you can't be on them, but we got the data for over the last 60 years from 1964 that associating the black race with the Democratic Party will be the demise of the black race. This is why we're back to black. This is why I say make an American black again. We debunk the ethnicity, because the ethnicity pretty much being put in the pot of gumbo with the LGBTQ community, the immigrants, the migrants, and anything else. So when we talk about race, race is our grace, to understand how we got here so it won't happen again. Because woman was the focus. The woman pretty much was the sacrificial lamb. And we got to talk about it today. And good morning to you. I got somebody from the state of Louisiana, and I appreciate you. It is what it is. And like I said, it is what it is. So look, so now that we are going to talk about the science. Okay. Now, a lot of people don't really like to talk about it. A lot of people don't want to understand it, but God's people shall not perish due to the lack of knowledge. God's people shall not perish due to the lack of knowledge. So I'm going to be reading some excerpts out of the Willie Lynch letter on how to make a slave, to basically, put the dots, put the pieces together to show you how we got to this position in American history today, and how it can no longer continue on this axle. Because Willie Lynch said it himself, we could do this for hundreds, if not thousands of years, unless a phenomenon happened. And that phenomenon, more importantly, is Jesus Christ. And secondly, it's the internet. Okay. Because they didn't anticipate us to be able to have a conversation, because usually, we just have to listen to what they tell us. But now we can use our minds and our education and do what we need to do. And it is what it is. So how did we get here? The Willie Lynch, science of Willie Lynch, how to make a slave. How did we get here? And I'm going to read basically a breakdown, and I'm going to put the pieces together. So black slaves, after receiving an indoctrination, shall carry on in self-refueling and self-generating for hundreds of years, maybe thousands. Don't forget, you must pitch the old black man versus the young black man. Stop right there. This is why the Bible says, do not despise thy youth. Okay. Because my issues that I have, not only in the Christian community, the church community, but just in life in general, is always some older man, just because he happened to be older, okay, think that he's supposed to get respect. But young fools grow up to be old fools. If you were uneducated, and then you grow up to be an uneducated old man. So these old men, they want respect, but they don't realize and understand that they're pretty much built their fortress and built their entire living the wilderness. Okay. Dr. King said it best. He's seen the mountaintop. Okay. And just like in the book of Egypt, Okay, when they escaped under the rulership of Pharaoh, what did they do? They ended up in the wilderness and recreated their same situation. So this is the history and the generational curses that we're breaking, because we got to move forward and do something different, because we cannot survive in the wilderness, because we've been stuck here since 1964, when we were supposed to overcome with the civil rights movement. But the Democratic president at the time, Lyndon B. Johnson, made sure that the black race was pretty much canceled. Okay, so 2024 poured a little liquor for the Democratic Party, because it lasts 60 years, but it's pretty much expiration date, and on this death certificate is going to say November 5th of 2024, because that's when the American people spoke up and made an educated decision that they're not going to take it anymore, and we're going to keep moving forward. So the science, pitch the old man versus the young man. It's always older cats trying to son you, okay, trying to son the younger man. Okay. And the Bible says old men dreams dreams and young men have vision. So also use the dark skinned slave versus the light skinned slave. Stop right there. This is why I did not even understand how a lot of black women rallied behind Harris. Okay. Because she's a woman, but Harris and her kind look at you black women as jigaboos. Okay. Spike Lee's movie School Days depicted it the best that I can actually see it, because in a fraternity in the AKA, there was a paper bag test. You had to be light skinned and all of this stuff. Those are historical facts. Okay. But then you got some beautiful, sisters that broke those barriers down. But those sisters are the ones that fight the hardest and try to be the most, professional from an etiquette perspective, so they could be actually accepted by their light skinned counterparts. Okay. And I'm just getting down to science, because Sarah Sanders left the Harris campaign because she was, rocking with Bernie Sanders, and then she got with Harris. But come to find out, Harris allegedly called her a bald-headed jigaboo when she resigned and tried to offer the position to a Delta, which was a light-skinned female, and declined. Okay, so when I say, you got sisters like Harris, and then, her kind call y'all jigaboos. So I just don't understand how we were supposed to just get behind that. So just like I said, you must put the dark skinned slave versus the light skinned slave. And then this is the focus right here on today's conversation, and today's topic on A Better Black America is basically, you must use the female versus the male. That's the female versus the male. And they went hook, line, and sinker. Hook, line, and sinker on the female. Okay. And clearly it was an epic fail, because it didn't. And I'm reading experts out of the book of Willie Lynch. So when you put the female against the male, the male, typically we stood down. Okay. And if you are new to the page, go back and look at some of the videos. I ran the Jesus Christ Coalition campaign, meaning we did not vote Republican or Democrat, because we wanted to break the generational cycle, AKA the generational curse. So now we could be in a position power as a sovereign group of people, in which we are in right now, and willing to work with either side, who's ever in office. But unfortunately, or fortunately to some people, Trump's in office. So we will be working for the liberties and the equities of our community with the Trump administration. And our number one call to action is to fight for him to sign an executive action for no tax on tips. Will help the dancers and the waitresses, no tax on overtime, which would help the working class and the middle class, and no tax on Social Security, which will be a 40% raise on the bottom line of their Social Security insurances. And that goes to the baby boomers. So baby boomers, you guys did a great job, for hanging in there this long and pulling us this far. But it's time for Generation X to take the wheel and make sure we make America the way it's supposed to be. One nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And we're going to fight for the rights of all people, which is humanitarians, because by default, if you are associating with the black and you are white or other cultures, that's class. But at the end of the day, by default, you're going to make sure we do what we need to do. So focus on the female. This is what they did. Joe Biden is on record saying, follow the science. And that's the science of Willie Lynch. So focusing on the female. And what the female would impart, and I'm going to go ahead and read out of the book of Willie Lynch, How to Make a Slave, the Willie Lynch letter, The Making of Slaves by Willie Lynch. Okay, keep the mind, keep the body, and take the mind. In other words, break the will to resist. So this is why you have a whole bunch of people that basically their whole concept is to just get along and step and fetch and do what they're told because they don't want any friction. This is not, there's no progress without struggle. So we've struggled long enough here in this nation. So now it's time to take it to a whole nother generation. Now, basically here, you must keep the eye on and the thoughts on the female. You must keep your eye and thoughts on the female. Okay. You must keep your mind and your thoughts on the female. And it is what it is. Now, this is the key. Listen to me. Pay attention. This is the key. This is what they did. This is what democracy or the Democratic Party did. And this is how they got us to this point that we are in right now. Clearly, they say put the female versus the male, male versus the female. It is what it is. But here we have reversed the relationship. Think about it. We have reversed the relationship in her natural, uncivilized state that would have a strong dependency on the uncivilized nigger male. Okay. And she would have a limited protection tendency toward her independent male offspring, meaning her male children, her male sons, and would raise male offsprings to be dependent like her. Now, this is why you have a culture of homosexuals. This is why you have a large volume of transgenders. This is why you have a large volume of men not being men, somehow being talked to and convinced that they're trapped in the wrong body, because the science of Willie Lynch says, get her to reverse the relationship of the uncivilized brother, get the black man out of her house. Okay. Get her to stop being dependent on her husband, which is the black man. Okay. And then she would have a limited protected tendencies towards her independent male offspring, meaning she can't protect him. So she will raise him to be like her. Think about that. She will raise her male offspring. Think about that. How do we get here? How did we get here? We have so many men that's pretty much being raised as a female. The men that have the female's demeanor. Okay. Men who walk, talk, and act like females. They learn that from females. And it's literally the science of the Democratic Party of democracy, which is slavery. And while we got to correct the history. The Republican Party is not the party of slavery. Okay. The Republican Party is the party that fought against the Confederate Dixiecratic South, which is the Democratic Party today. Okay. And defeated them because they wanted to preserve slavery, because they were profiting off of free labor. Okay. And I'm talking about in all these southern slave states. But then you have males that pretty much were trained like their mothers, that will pretty much fight and say things that will protect the oppressor. And that's real. So we really got to have that conversation. We really got to have this conversation. So this is why, they're pushing a trans agenda, because if you could trans a human being, think about this. The truth is the truth. The truth may be offensive, but the truth is the truth, and the truth shall make us free. Think about this. This is how they did it. This is how they got into her mind. Okay. And think about society and where we are right now. Now, listen, nature has provided for us this type of balance. We reverse nature. This is the science of Willie Lynch. We reverse nature by burning and pulling a civilized nigger apart and bullwhipping the other to the point of death, all in her presence. Look what happened to George Floyd. Look what happened to George Floyd in the presence of females, in the presence of mothers, at the time in the presence of Black Lives Matters. Think about it. Think about it. Nature has provided for this type of balance. We reverse nature, meaning make the female the male and the male the female. Reversing nature. That's nature. Okay. If you got a male dog and a female dog, a lion and a lioness, they don't have to learn how to be what they are. That's nature. But this is what the Democratic Party has done. And this is why we can't associate ourselves with the Democratic Party, because the Democratic Party, their democracy, they run it through the science of Willie Lynch. And the original sin of the Democratic Party is slavery. This is why they were trying to bring those statues down, because history will show that it's the Democratic Party, but the jig is up, and the phenomenon has happened. So you can't stop the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. But like I said, the Democratic Party had timed out. This election was huge. This is why she took such a grand defeat. So now they can't even defend themselves. They can only just listen to the truth, so we can actually get back on course and reverse nature back to its natural state. This is why the Trump administration has promised that on day one of the inauguration, he's going to sign into law the recognizing of just male and female. See what they're doing? They're trying to reverse nature. Okay, because reversing nature will pretty much keep people in power, keep white supremacy going, and keep a group of people desolate and in a position of a subordinate. And this is the chains and the shackles that we have to break mentally, spiritually, and physically. So nature has provided this type of balance. Check this out. We reverse nature by burning and pulling a sliced nigger apart. Okay. And bullwhipping the other to the point of death in her presence. Now, just imagine a female. Her husband, okay, got pulled apart. They just got pulled apart. Okay. Her brother getting bullwhipped, and she's sitting there with her son. Her son's sitting there. Big old baby boy. Okay. Big old baby boy. We reverse nature by burning and pulling a civilized nigger, her husband, apart, and bullwhipping her brother to the point of death in her presence, and by her being left alone, unprotected, with the male image destroyed. Think about it. With the male image destroyed, the ordeal caused her to move from her psychological dependent state to be frozen in an independent state. Which party does not promote the nuclear family? Which party has told our women that you don't need no man? Which party has told our women and our daughters you could do anything a man could do? You don't need no man. Okay. So it's a physical aspect that happened. Okay. And then they can get you mentally, because look at the mass incarceration system. Look at modern day mass incarceration. Look at the bill, the 94 crime bill that Bill Clinton signed into law, which is nothing but a slavery bill. Look at the bill that Joe Biden wrote. Joe Biden wrote the bill. Joseph Biden, our current president right now, wrote the bill. This is why God is undefeated, and he is awakening us from a spiritual perspective, because the individuals that are guilty of these crimes, of these atrocities, are still in office and still in play, so we can understand the truth right now. Think about it. Think about it. Think about it. Now, by her being left alone, unprotected, with the male image destroyed, this ordeal caused her from moving from her psychologically dependent state on her husband and her family to a frozen independent state. Now she's just frozen. She don't know what to do. So now she's in the right position to be guided and molded to doing all the work and the will of the oppressors. It's what it is. And the truth shall make us free. Now, in this frozen psychological state of independence, think about this. Think of this. This is why democracy has to end. Their democracy. America is a constitutional republic, to the republic which it stands, one nation under God. Okay, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all, for everybody. But the Democratic Party, this is the party that keeps this thing going because that's their democracy. And the only way that they eat is if they can control the niggers, the black race, the ethnicities, create reverse what is it? Reverse engineer humanity and create a whole nother group of people. It is what it is. It is what it is. It is what it is. So in this psychological state of independence, she will raise her male and female offspring reverse roles. So you telling me that our women has been coerced and trained to raising their children in reverse roles. Look at the high volume of homosexuals in the black community. Look at the high volume of African Americans that's a part of the LGBTQ community. This is the science that they did to destroy a race. To destroy a race. To destroy a race. It is what it is. It is what it is. And I'll continue. The fear of the young male's life, she will psychologically train him to be mentally weak and dependent, but physically strong. This is why you have men with beards, lace fronts and lashes, carrying around, talking about they African American and support Kamala Harris, the Democratic Party. The jig is up. The jig is up. Because she has become psychologically independent, train her female offspring to be psychologically independent. What do you have? You got the nigger woman out front and the nigger male behind and scared. And that's a fact. Just like Kendrick said it best, it's 2024 and we still scared. But the man, our excuse, like I said, I apologize for taking the back seat. I thought, these men was looking out for the best interests of the community, but somehow they were just basically looking out for the best interests of themselves and the oppressors. So now we get an opportunity to break the cycle, and it is what it is. And it is what it is. What have you got? The nigger woman out and the nigger man behind and scared. This is the perfect situation of sound sleep economics. Before the breaking process, she had to be, alertly on guard at all times. Now, Joe Biden can sleep soundly. It didn't say that. Now we can sleep soundly for her frozen fear. His woman stands guard for us. Look at the sororities, the Divine Nine standing guard for the Democratic Party. Look how Harris is standing guard for Joe Biden. She know he's not equipped, but she wouldn't say anything negative because she will stand guard according to the science of Willie Lynch. She will stand guard for them. He cannot get past her early slave molding process. He is a good tool now ready to be tied to a horse at a tender age. So pretty much at a tender age. So meaning they won't affect the children. This is why the Democratic Party has to be exposed. This is why in the state of California passed Proposition 3, which removes all rules for marriage, opening the door for incest and making moms and dads optional. And that's a fact. So this is why to the black community, the party is dead and the funeral is going to be on January 20th of 2025. OK, we can no longer associate ourselves with the party. And if you want to understand the trend, there were actually 13.6 million registered Democrats that supported the Democratic Party in 2020 that didn't support the party in 2024. Those are the numbers. So when they sit back and say, oh, it was the Latinos and no, we stood down. We stood down because now we really understand what's going on. And since I got a few people on and it's time to really educate ourselves and understand. This here is the book, The Miseducation of the Negro by Carter Goodwin Woodson. And in chapter 10, chapter X, chapter 10, now history shows the result of these usual forces in the education of the Negro is easily learns to follow of least resistance rather than battle against the odds for what history have shown is the right course. Now, A mind that remains in the present atmospheres never undergoes sufficient development or experience what known as thinking. No Negro thus submerged in the ghetto then will have a clear conception of the present status of the race or sufficient foresight to plan for the future, and he drifts far towards compromise that he loses moral courage. Now, the education of the Negro then becomes the perfect device for control from without. Though purposely promoted, even have a reason to rejoice, the Negroes themselves ultimately champion the cause of the oppressor. Think about that. Party over, okay? God's people shall not perish due to the lack of knowledge. Party over. Think about it. Think about it. And I was wondering, what happened with Harris? They put her out there and they just prostituted her. She's doing the work of the adversary, which is the devil. And God basically made sure that didn't happen. I looked down there in Fulton County with Fonnie Willis. On with your career. First of all, with the Nathan Wade situation, we started dating, her lead prosecutor and got, taken off the case. That was one thing. But then to invest all of this money to try to arrest some rappers and try them on a RICO charge, you're pretty much doing the work of oppressor. It is what it is. It is what it is. And you guys in these comments, man, y'all have big paragraphs in here. Let me see here. Or this is one way that they were to speak because you love the sound of your own. Let me see. I'm trying to help you. Okay, I guess you guys are talking to each other. Please shows that the black vote blue in LVJ interview. Okay, listen. Hit that notification. Hit that subscription. We're going to be putting ourselves in a position to do exactly what you said. Okay, right now I'm not going to do that. Okay, because I'm gonna use some other software because anytime that I tried to do that, it flipped. But hang in there with me. We're going to have these conversations. But blacks voted for Lyndon B. Johnson just to, add to that narrative because blacks overwhelmingly voted for Kennedy for the first time ever that they voted Democratic. Okay, before that, blacks were voting Republican. And a lot of people don't understand that because you got, miseducated people, putting that information. And when you talk about the Democratic Party pushing and peddling misinformation, they get offended because it's the truth. Because when they talk about, there was poll taxes and poll intimidation, all of that transpired on black Republicans in the South who are newly freed slaves, who are the descendants of the slave, were supporting the Republican Party because the Republican Party supported freedom. So the KKK, which came out of the Democratic Party, which came out of the Confederacy and all of that, they used fear and intimidation and made sure that blacks could not vote in the South. And they charged them $2. They charged them, poll taxes, poll intimidation, because they wanted to make sure that the blacks could not vote because blacks were voting against the democracy that they just got out of. So then you have John F. Kennedy, a person out of, I believe they're from Connecticut. And he pretty much, as an Irishman, was talking and was resonating to the black voter and basically, got the black vote. But he was assassinated. And his vice president was the governor of Texas, Lyndon B. Johnson, the racist Southerner, who pretty much how, they play the game, and he became president and he made a grand decision because, they were going to flip. And he pretty much said, I'm going to have these Negroes voting Democratic for the next 400 years, for the next 200 years. End of quote. And what he did was he's brought in the Negro leaders, Dr. King and the NAACP and all of these people. He signed all the civil rights acts, desegregated the South. He brought in integration and all of that. But then he also put Planned Parenthood in the same pot. He put the women's live movement in the same pot. He put the gay agenda in the same pot. And he took us from a race of being black and proud, put us as an ethnicity. And this is why today you have organizations like the ACLU talking about, the African American, the brown, and the LGBTQ movement. No, you guys are going to be getting desist letters because black has no association with anything outside of black race. And you put a G in front of that, and that's our grace. So that's how they do it. They pretty much use the science of Willie Lynch. They pretty much connect themselves to us and somehow give us the opportunity of inclusion, but then the bait and switch. And we can all look at it and attribute that to any of the movements when it comes to the civil rights. And you can look at the most recent history with Black Lives Matters. What happened to Black Lives Matters? It enriched the ACLU, it enriched Planned Parenthood, and Black Lives Matters could not even be found. And they even had the vice president chair of Black Lives Matters chapter in LA running as a vice presidential candidate as a distraction, as a protest vote. Dr. Melina Abdullah, and she was on the ticket as vice president with Dr. Cornel West. And if you did not know, there was 3.6 million registered Democrats that voted down, meaning registered Democrats that voted for other parties outside of the Republican and Democratic Party. And my group, we wrote in our presidential candidate, but some states, 7 states, did not have a right. They were actually forced to vote, and they voted down ballot. So you have 3.6 million registered Democrats who voted down ballot. And then you have an additional 10 million registered Democrats that showed up in 2020 that did not vote in 2024. So you got 13.6 million Democrats that decided to abandon the party, decided to leave the burning house. And this is how we are doing what we're doing now with one of the strongest coalitions in American history. And we're going to just understand what we're doing. And then I see in the comments, somebody put in the welfare state. Yes, the welfare state, and as a child, I remember, seeing my father for the last time for a very long time when some white social worker came to our house when I was a child, and pretty much told my mother if she caught my father there, then she's going to lose benefits. And basically she chose to, make the government my daddy. And because she wanted that milk to keep being delivered, she wanted whatever she needed to do. And she went and got her education, and she did what she needed to do. And she raised 2 beautiful boys from an independent perspective. But the whole play was to get the. So now we get a chance to expose the truth. Because the government should not be the daddy of these children. The government should not have anything to do with, with raising and rearing. The government should stay out of our business and allow us to reverse, their process and get back to God, man, woman, and child, because the nuclear family needs to be promoted. And then you see in this election, they went all in with the women. They went all in with abortion, which is just killing babies. But for the first time in our lives, let's go ahead and just, go all in on teenage pregnancy and unwanted pregnancy and teach, contraceptives and things like that, because there's a flip side to it, because this women's right to choose and all of that, that's crazy. But we need to promote that nuclear family. Because, a woman is at her best when she's in the best position that she could be in. Because I know without shadow of a doubt that every heterosexual woman on this planet, if she could draw up her dream situation, she will be at her beautiful estate in a position financially, socially, economically, and she will have the man of her dreams, not taking care of her, but adding to the equation, just like female adds to the male's equation. Because at the end of the day, that's how it was intended to be. And this is why when the joke was on Harris, when he says, we're not going back and we're turning the page, and the end of the page, the end. And now we're in the front of the book and we're back in the garden and we're going to stay right there. So now the man has reconciled with God. And I'm going to go ahead on record, and I can only speak for myself and my kind as a black man. I've got back in line and back in favor with my Heavenly Father. So now that I'm back in line with my Heavenly Father, and I see the mistake that not only did the man make, but which documented man made, which was Adam. And his only mistake was that he hearkened unto his wife and not unto God. So therefore, if we back with God, we cannot make that same mistake. So now we got to hearken to God. And now we got to get our woman back from the devil and from the adversary. But it's going hard because psychologically she's dependent and frozen. She's psychologically dependent in a psychologically dependent state and frozen dependently in her mind because what has happened and what has transpired. All she got to do is turn the TV on and see the murders and the killings. All she got to do is, situations with her brothers and fathers and, men that are locked up in prison. And then look at the fact that she's been convinced to raise her male offspring as a female. And now that he's feminine and can't reverse that, but we can reconcile with God and get back with God and save another generation. Because at the end of the day, you are who you are. Be and it is what it is. But for the most part, we need to focus on the children because the children are the future. Okay, we need to make sure we do what we need to do to fix it, because now that we see that we've bought into an operation, into a political party that was designed to destroy us, designed to destroy the men, designed to psychologically damage the woman, designed to put her in a desolate, desperate position, and then somehow raise her strong son from a feeble-minded perspective and turn him out in terms of, not even, to make him not attract to women, to make him not reproduce. It's all a play to preserve what they have. And what they have is a small, is all it is power. Okay. But we need to take the power back because now we understand what the Democratic Party is all about. We got 60 years of data. If you look from the Civil Rights Act being signed on July 2nd of 1964, and then if you the election on November 5th of 2024, that's 60 years. So it lasted an additional 60 years, and now we got to make sure that we eulogize the party, that we allow the party to know that we know what they're doing, because it's pretty much based on the baby boomers. And when the science of Willie Lynch said, put the old versus the young, the old generation basically said that my generation, which is lost. But if we were lost, we are found. And if we are found, then it clearly shows that the baby boomers is the lost generation, because these are individuals in their 70s that's pushing a narrative and an agenda to promote pronouns, pushing a narrative and an agenda to raise their sons and daughters in reverse roles, putting a narrative and agenda to emphasizing mass incarceration and keeping slavery on the books, because a lot of these baby boomers and a lot of these women voted no on Position 6, which was to end slavery in the state of California. And these same individuals voted yes on the 94 crime bill and supported that 94 crime bill. So now you're talking about which party is lost. Party is lost. X is an unknown factor in mathematical terms. So X is about to equal freedom, liberation, and independence. But baby boomers pretty much literally built their whole fortress in the wilderness. And according to the Bible, only Caleb and Joshua made it out. So it seems like going to do is die in the wilderness, because the young man, we're packing up and we're going to the mountaintop that Dr. King saw. But older people physically, mentally, and spiritually are not even able to even condition their minds of doing something different. So this is why the Bible talks about dead man's bones. And this is why we got to pretty much leave them where they stand. Okay, because it is what it is. Sometimes you're too early, sometimes you're too late, and sometimes you're just right on time. And right now, this is our moment in history to pretty much start, because the biblical prophecy expired August 20th of the year 2024, when the 400 year biblical prophecy on the 360-day calendar expired. So now this is why our energy we are. This is why you can't make us vote for your bed wench and concubine just because. This is because we know what you're doing. Their playbook is the science of Willie Lynch. Their playbook is the science of Willie Lynch. And it is what it is. It is what it is. She will raise her children in reverse roles. We have reversed the relationship, and I'm reading out of the book of Willie Lynch. We have reversed the relationship in her natural uncivilized state. She will have strong dependency on the uncivilized nigger male, and she would have a limited protective tendency towards her independent male offspring, and will raise male offsprings to be dependent just like her. So you got women raising their sons to be just like them. This is why you have a large volume of people in the LGBTQ community, the trans community. You have a lot of feminine males. They learning this from the mothers, because mothers are raising their children. And I'm not saying it's their fault, but I'm saying that's a fact. Okay. She will raise her independent male offspring, will raise male offsprings to be dependent like her. Now, nature has provided us for this type of balance. Now we reverse nature by destroying the nigger male in her presence. That's literally what it says, but I'm gonna read it what it says in quote. Nature has provided us this type of balance. We reverse nature by burning and pulling a civilized nigger apart, her husband, and bullwhipping the other, her brother or her oldest son, to the point of death, all in her presence. By her being left protected with the male image being destroyed, the oil caused her to move from her psychological dependent frozen state to an independent state. In this frozen psychological dependence, she will raise her male and female offspring in reverse roles. End of quote. Now we got to fix this thing. We got to fix this thing. Not only are we chasing the rainbow, we destroying the rainbow. Okay. Because the rainbow is ended. The Trump administration is going to end all of that. Okay. Their Project 2025 is to ban males from competing in women's sports. Project 2020, along with Trump, already said that he's going to sign into law as executive action that we're only going to recognize male and female in the United States of America. And it's at birth, because science says X and XY's chromosomes only mean male and female. So moving forward, it is what it is. And we're literally destroying the rainbow, because be a rainbow. I mean, if you are who you are, but there should not be an agenda, okay, or a culture being tricked, bamboozled, led astray, and running amok just to basically create a whole new environment. Why are we trying to do that when we should be promoting righteousness? God is not the author of confusion. So what are you confused about? It's an agenda predicated by the Democratic Party to convince black women to raise their sons as their daughters and to get them to be dependent just like them. That's the truth. God is not the author of confusion. So if you got a question, I will really answer the question. It is what it is. Depending on the lottery, LOL. That is pretty funny. So you do got a lot of people there that's playing the lottery and all of that. But like I said, individuals with talent, we don't start time playing games like that. We do what we need to do, because just waking up every day and doing God's will, we win the lottery every day. OK, so it's time for us to see the music and really understand what's going on. OK, and Paul Thomas says, when my father came to America in the 40s from Lebanon, he said that the black family is the strongest around and would super strict with at the top, setting the standards. Absolutely. This is why they destroyed the black nuclear family, because black men raised us to be men. OK, I was raised by my mom as a single mom, but I was raised in a culture at a time where, my mentors, coaches, my teachers, men in the community, my uncles, we lived in an environment where they taught us to be men, and we passed that down to our sons. I remember my uncle walking me to school as a kid, and I'm skipping, and he sit back and said, man, we live in South Central LA. You got gangbangers, all of that, paying attention, all that skipping. You need to just, develop your walk. That's why today I walked away to that. OK, because we know that how a man walks and carries himself, has a lot to do with his character, has a lot to do with his upbringing. But now you have these guys, these men twirling and switching like women, but then they don't have a father to correct them. And then if somebody outside of the community that's not associated with, hey, man, why are you walking like that? And then the mother's going to protect her, her homosexual or gay or feminine son and say, you don't tell them what to do because the women are responsible for raising these feminine men. If it's not your mother or it's somebody closely associated, your grandmother, somebody taught you how to do that, because I have a son and I've raised my son and I finished college and I couldn't leave his side at 2 years old. Okay. And I made sure he did what he needed to do. And I raised a man. Okay. So my family members, the whole nine. So what we're saying is it's time to really understand that this thing goes big, is bigger than Republican or Democrat. This thing is God versus the devil, and the devil has attached himself to the female and empowered the female and have her thinking that she's doing something right when what she's doing, she's committing adversarial acts to pretty much destroy humanity, more importantly, God's people. And this is why this election, the way that she lost without the support of the men, we knew that they didn't do nothing but put a woman in power. So literally our black women are getting pimped by white supremacy because it's the preservation of white supremacy and white power. Okay. And it's pretty much not in your face. If we call it plateau, it's pretty much in the backdrops. And, you don't know what's really going on, because when you ask Harris about what she going to do just for black people, she sit back and tell the truth. Like, listen, there's two types of supporters. There's voters and then there's check writers. My hands are tied. So she can only do what the check writers say. And she blew the bag. Okay. So they pretty much put her out there on the stroll. This beautiful, educated sister, highly successful, put her out track. And now they treating her worse than they treat prostitutes on the street. They're trolling her. She's going viral, not for the positive situations, but by negative situations. So we really got to really understand what's going on. And it is what it is. And you look at all the women in power. Look at Letitia James. She's looking real, strange right now. Look at Fani Willis. She's looking real strange right now. So they have invested highly in the woman. And this is why the black man stood down. So when black women cannot understand why black men did not support, did not endorse outside of the entertainment industry, did not endorse Harris, is because we knew the play. And we knew the play, and we was going to make sure it played out. So now that it went just how we thought it was going to be, so the party is over. And now we're nonpartisan independents. We don't have no party affiliation. So now we can get to work. So now we can develop our own communities. Okay, we can start recycling our dollars. We can lobby the Trump administration or whatever administration that's in power, for the equities in our community to make sure that our communities thrive and we start to develop and change our hoods and barrios into communities, because you can't be a community without recycling dollars, without healthy food, grocery stores, without banks, without none of that. It is what it is. So we got to figure this thing out. And we're going to make sure that we're going to do that. We're going to make what we're going to do, and it is what it is. And I appreciate y'all. So hopefully, and we're going to keep the same energy that you guys are learn and understand what's really going on. Okay, because we got to get back to supporting the black nuclear family. We got to develop, and as a man, I'm vulnerable as well. We got to develop these young men to be strong, young men to be leaders, and these young men to be husbands and fathers to our daughters' children. Okay, this is what we got to do. We had an opportunity to do it before. Because when we did do it before, what they did was just pretty much cherry pick through affirmative actions, and DEI is dead on arrival, which is pretty much the old school affirmative actions. They pick, and put the right people in play to make sure that they protect their best interests. Clearly, that we will pretty much take on the mind of our oppressor and treat ourselves worse than our oppressors. And when I say that, I think of Tyree Nichols. Okay. And Tyree Nichols was murdered by the police officer, by black police officers, Tennessee. They beat him and they killed him. Okay. Because it used to be the white man doing that. Okay. And then now you got Fani Willis and Letitia James, putting RICO charges on black rappers and trying to destroy black men. It used to be white men that did that. So the party of slavery, We'll always be the party of slavery. The party of slavery has expired. The funeral will be held January 20th of 2025. Okay, I will be doing the eulogy, and the Democratic Party will never, ever be the same again because it has no association and connection with the black race. You can have the African Americans, which is a part of the LBGTQ, LMNOP society, whatever. But when you talk about race, your sexual preference doesn't matter because our race is our grace, and that trumps everything. And if we can champion ourselves, we can make this United States one of the greatest nations ever. And if y'all really tripped out because Trump got an opportunity to be the greatest president known man, and if that man signed an executive action, amend the Constitution, and take the slavery clause off the Constitution, Trump will go down in history better than George Washington and Abraham Lincoln put together. And God don't like ugly. So it is what it is. So with that being said, you guys have an amazing day. Hit the like, hit the notification, hit the subscription. We're going to continue to go up. And this is your man, Bushan Glover, signing out. Better Black America. Peace out.